Anne B asks, what is spirituality and what's it good for? Spirituality is an intentionally vague word, and it refers to magical thinking of various types: mysticism, irrationality, non science, thinking there's somehow more to the world than science. It's, what is it good for? It's commonly a bit of a replacement for religion. People stop being a Christian, but then they find there's a gap in their life where Christianity used to be, so they become spiritual, which is sort of like religious, except uh, they're not a Christian. And they pretend it's not a religion, but it still has all the like magical mumbo jumbo, not science in it. People find that kind of thing appealing because one, they're not that big on like logic and reason, and they find like facts to be cold. And most people aren't like super logical thinkers, and they hate hair splitting and arguing, and they want there to be like meaning in life. You know, there are problems that religion addresses that science doesn't address very well. Like, what is the purpose of life? So people want answers to those questions, and if they're not going to be religious because they have to impress their friends with how smart they are or something, then they just like make up some bullshit to try to replace it that's not nearly as good as the previous tradition. You know, religions have, like Christianity, have evolved over a long period of time. A lot of people have put a lot of thought into improving them and making them make sense and making them be effective and work in people's lives. And spirituality just doesn't have that kind of effort put into making it coherent or productive or useful or anything like that. So it just doesn't work that well, and it's kind of dumb. Definitely don't recommend it. People are too quick to spit on religion because religion was not designed to be science. And they think that reason means judging ideas basically by how scientific they are. And religion was developed before science in order to answer different questions than science is aimed at. And they think something like the basis, the foundation of thinking should be the scientific method and empirical observation. You know, if you can't see God, then you have to reject God. And, you know, logically, they think, you know, if you're rejecting God, you have to reject the rest of religion because it's all, you know, this logical puzzle. It's like a bunch of logical puzzle pieces put together, and if you take one the whole thing falls apart. Just like with science, you know, if you see one thing floating upwards, it's a serious problem for gravity. You can't just like ignore one little contradiction or flaw in your system. You're trying to find like a perfect system. But that perspective is screwed up. What they should be doing is take their existing ideas from religion and try to fix actual problems that are affecting their lives and try to make it better. And don't throw out things that are useful, like, so people find believing in God like comforting and stuff, and that's one of the things spirituality is supposed to be a substitute for. And if you need something of that sort, then don't throw out the one you already have. If you're fine without it, okay, whatever, but it makes no sense to like throw it out and then be like, oh shit, I needed that, and then try to replace it with your ad hoc crap you made up. And then there's lots of other parts of religion that are not statements that God exists. There are statements that murder is immoral. You know, and people, because they're such foundationalists, they think, well, God is the foundation of morality according to Christianity. So if we throw out God, we have to throw out all the moral ideas, and then we have to like redevelop them in a scientific way, or just reject morality entirely. And that's not wise. You should just keep the idea that murder is wrong, unless you know, find some actual problem with that belief. Lack of foundation isn't a criticism of something. If you don't know the foundation of something or the argument for something even, it could still be true. That's not a reason it doesn't work, a reason it doesn't solve the problem it's supposed to solve. Or a problem that it causes in your life. So basically, people don't understand rationality very well, and then they throw out religion, and then they make a crappy replacement for it. It's not a good approach. People should be more careful and know what they're doing more before they think they're wiser than so many people who are religious. Like, they're very arrogant. And I'm not saying just defer to authority, but I'm saying if you're going to reject a bunch of traditional ideas and say, I'm smarter than all these people, I have better ideas, I'm going to go my own way, blah, 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 you actually have to put some fucking effort into that. Like, that's a big deal. You need to try. You need to study. You need to read lots of books. You need to have lots of serious discussions. And not just with your 20 friends or your social circle, but actually go online and deal with the public. Deal with people from like all sorts of different camps and perspectives and so on. Seek out good ideas. Like, make it a whole fucking project where you actually really try your fucking best to get it right. Don't just do it carelessly. If you're not going to put a lot of effort into it, just stick with conventional ideas. You will be better off. If you're going to try to do something unconventional, that's risky. You could fuck up. You could do worse. It's way easier to do like worse than convention than better than convention. It's way easier to like fuck something up than make it better. So if you want to make it better, you have to actually like make that a significant part of your life, is actually trying to do that correctly. And the spirituality people don't do that at all. It's completely unserious. They don't study philosophy. They don't try to study philosophy. They don't study religion. They don't try to study religion. Like, if you're going to reject religion, you need to not just study philosophy, you also have to study religion, like this thing you're rejecting. You know? Like, you have to actually know what you're rejecting. Like, your Sunday school classes were not adequate to have a full and complete understanding of religion in words that lets you be wise about it. Like, that's not good enough. If you actually want to be this, like, enlightened person, you're going to have to study it a lot more than having attended Sunday school and some sermons. Like, you should probably be studying it, like, more than the person who was teaching you at Sunday school ever did. And an example of that is Jordan Peterson's YouTube videos, where he actually studies the Bible and various other things. Like, he's put actual serious effort into that and has ideas about it that are interesting, and you can see that there's thought that went into them, and he knows some things about it. And if you're not doing something like that, then don't think yourself wiser than the Bible. Like, that's the kind of effort it takes to, like, be really smart and go your own way and do better. If you're just going to be absolutely nothing like him, and he's like a million light years above you, and you'd never dream of making lectures like his, then just stick to the conventional ideas. One other case is not everyone is raised religious. Like, it's very different to reject a religion that you already have versus just like not get one in the first place. Like, I grew up an atheist, so I've never believed in God, so I wasn't like throwing anything out. But on the other hand, like, you know, I grew up with lots of standard moral beliefs, like don't murder people, which are basically Christian beliefs. So although I wasn't like actually religious, I still had a lot of the Christian ideas. And, you know, I still think a lot of them are correct, like don't murder people. And, you know, telling the truth is usually a good idea. And these things sound a little silly. They sound like common sense because they're like so ingrained in our culture, but people don't actually, most people could not argue for those things in a like rational scientific way. Like, they just, the beliefs really are coming basically from religion. That's like how they're getting passed around. Like, the fact that a bunch of atheists believe them just shows that those people are inconsistent. It doesn't make them like secular beliefs that are actually worked out. Like, Ayn Rand and I can talk about them secularly, but like most people really can't.